My name is Addison Phillips, and that Sunday dinner started. Like every other one in our house, quiet tension simmering under the smell of pot. Roast and polished silver. The pot roast sits. And touched on my plate as Mom circles the dining table, topping off water glasses with that practiced precision she's had for 30 years. Sunday dinner at the Phillips house always unfolds the same way, crystal goblets catching the light from the chandelier. Heirloom china gleaming against the dark walnut table that's seen 3 decades of family arguments dressed up as quality time. Dad checks his watch for the third time. Emma should be here by now, he mutters. You know your sister, Mom says, her eyes flicking toward me. She runs on her own clock. I nod, not trusting my voice. Every Sunday since my big promotion, I've shown up for these dinners hoping something might finally shift. Hoping my parents might really look at me without measuring everything against their perfect younger daughter. The front door swings open, followed by the sharp click of heels on hardwood floors. Emma breezes in, windblown and laughing, her whole body radiating that effortless confidence that comes from never facing real consequences. Sorry, I'm late. She tosses her purse onto the sideboard, barely missing Mom's prized crystal bowl. My stomach tightens when I spot what's dangling from her finger, my key ring with the distinctive cobalt leather tag. My keys to my car. Dad's face lights up. How'd the interview go? Pretty good, I think. Emma drops into her chair like she owns the room. The manager said I have excellent qualifications. Of course you do, Mom says warmly, already serving her an extra large portion of pot roast. We're just glad you had reliable transportation today. The room tilts. I set my fork down carefully, the sterling silver making a soft clink against the bone china. Did you take my car without asking? My voice comes out low and measured. Emma rolls her eyes and twirls the keys before tossing them beside her water glass. Oh, please. It just sits in your garage most days anyway. That's not an answer. Dad's expression hardens. Family helps family, Addison. Emma needed to make a good impression. My mind flashes back to this morning reaching for my spare keys on the hook by the door and finding the peg empty. I'd assumed I'd misplaced them. Never once imagined my own sister would just take them. You could have asked. I say quietly. Mom's smile tightens. Honestly, honey, it's not like you were using it. The familiar dismissal stings. But this time something darker burns underneath the slow-building fury I rarely let myself feel. 3 months ago, I stood in a boardroom in my best charcoal suit, presenting the result of 18 months of nonstop work. 8 men in similar suits watched me, their skepticism slowly turning into grudging respect as I walked them through every detail. When the final signature landed on that $3.5 million contract, I knew exactly what I'd do with the commission. The dealership called the color midnight blue. In certain light it looked almost black. The leather seats smelled like pure possibility. The salesman looked surprised when I paid the down payment. Without hesitation, no husband, no father there to approve the purchase. It was the first major thing I'd ever owned that wasn't used, hand-me-down, or heavily discounted. I'd shown pictures to my friend Linda over celebratory drinks. I earned every inch of it. I told her. Now Emma studies her nails, completely oblivious to what she's taken. Not just a car, the physical proof that I'd finally stepped out of the long shadow of family expectations. I've been meaning to ask, Emma says, cutting into her meat. Could I borrow it again next weekend? There's this networking event in Boulder and… No, the word drops before I can soften it. Mom's fork pauses halfway to her mouth. Addison, don't be selfish. There it is. The same old pattern. Emma takes. I sacrifice. My parents play referee, always ruling in her favor. You have your own car, I point out. That old thing. Emma scoffs. Come on, I'm trying to make connections here. Dad sets down his napkin. Your sister is just starting her career. The least you can do is help. My career started with student loans, 2 side jobs, and 0 family connections. But saying that out loud would only get me labeled bitter or jealous of Emma's effortless charm. The story never changes, only the details. By the way, Emma adds, spearing a carrot. Some idiot in a parking lot scratched the passenger door. Nothing major. My phone buzzes in my pocket. Then again. And again. I slip it out, breaking mom's no phones at dinner rule. And my blood freezes. 6 notifications from colleagues. All variations of the same message, beautiful car. When did your parents buy it? I open Instagram. There it is, Emma posed beside my midnight blue sedan, manicured hands spread across the hood, smiling wide and proud. The caption reads, "Thanks mom and dad for the amazing gift. Blessed with a new car and family support." 23 likes. For comments from mutual friends? Posted 2 hours ago. I place my phone on the table, screen facing up so everyone can see. The room goes still. We need to talk about boundaries. I say, voice steady even as rage builds behind my ribs. The time for sacrifice is over. Dad waves his hand dismissively at my phone. It's just a social media post. Addison, don't be so sensitive. She just wants to feel successful like her big sister. Mom chimes in, dabbing her napkin at the corner of her mouth. Is that so terrible? I look straight at Emma, waiting. Her shoulders rise and fall in that practiced shrug. I'll delete it if it's that big a deal, she says, not meeting my eyes. But everyone already saw it. So what's the point? The casualness in her voice makes my skin burn. I take a slow breath and keep my tone even. Show me the scratch. What? On my car. The scratch you mentioned. I want to see it. 2 minutes later, we're standing in the driveway. The scratch isn't minor, it's a foot-long scrape with traces of red paint embedded in the midnight blue paint. Definitely not from some random parking lot incident. It looks like she sideswiped a fire hydrant. You sideswiped a fire hydrant, I say, the words tasting like metal. Were you texting while driving? Emma's eyes dart back toward the house where our parents are waiting. Does it matter? Insurance will cover it. My insurance. My premiums. Back inside, I scroll through my phone with my heart pounding harder with every swipe. It isn't just one post. There are 5, spanning the last 2 weeks. Emma at a restaurant valet stand. Emma at a country club. Emma showing off her new car to friends outside an upscale bar. Memories flood back in sharp detail. High school, me at 17 opening the thin envelope from Stanford full academic scholarship. Mom barely glanced up from planning Emma's sweet 16 party. That's nice, honey. Can you hang these streamers? 2 hours later, Dad pulled into the driveway in a shiny red Volkswagen, keys dangling. Happy birthday, princess. Emma squealed while I finished taping decorations for a party I wasn't even invited to attend properly. College years, me working the campus bookstore in the mornings, waiting tables at night. My parents contributed $600 a semester for books. Meanwhile, Emma bounced between 3 different universities, fully funded, before dropping out entirely. College isn't for everyone, Mom had said, patting Emma's hand. My sweaters disappearing from my closet. My jewelry borrowed and never returned. The spare key to my first apartment suddenly missing after Emma stopped by just to see the place. The pattern stretches back decades. Suddenly crystal clear. I place my phone face up on the table and stand. The dining room falls silent as I rise to my full height. Suddenly aware of how I tower over my seated family. This car, I say, my voice quieter than expected, represents the first major purchase I made for myself with money I earned from a job where I've worked 80-hour weeks to excel. Double quotes boom. Mom single quotes s eyes fill with tears. Dad's jaw clenches tight. I paid for my own college. I paid for my apartment. I paid for every single thing I owed. Each sentence lands like a footstep on unstable ground. After the Miller contract closed, I chose that car because for once I wanted something that wasn't secondhand, something that represented what I'd accomplished without anyone's help. Emma examines her nails, but I catch the flicker of resentment in her eyes. And you took it without asking. Then lied about who bought it. Mom's tears spill over, quickly turning to indignation. After all we've done for you, this is how you repay us. With accusations and ingratitude. My phone buzzes again. Jessica from accounting. Beautiful car in the post. When did your parents buy it? Must be nice having such generous support. Jessica, who watched me stay late every single night for 18 months building the Miller proposal. Who brought me coffee during the final presentation. Who celebrated with cheap champagne when the contract finally closed. I think about my boss Tom walking me to the parking lot the day after I bought the car. His approving nod as he circled it. You earned every inch of that luxury, Phillips. Nobody handed you anything. At work, I get respect, acknowledgement of effort, recognition of achievement. At home, dismissal, entitlement, theft dressed up as sharing. I reach for my purse with deliberate calm and sling it over my shoulder. Don't you walk away from this table. Young lady, Dad's voice carries the old authority that used to make me freeze. We're not finished discussing this. Actually, we are. I move toward the door. What are you going to do? Emma challenges, leaning back with that familiar confidence, the confidence of someone who's never faced real consequences. Call the police on your own, sister. I pause at the threshold and turn to face them one last time. Three faces, all wearing the same expectation that I'll bend. Like I always have. No, I say, fingers tight around my keys. I'm going to do something much more effective. The door closes behind me with a soft click, punctuating my final word like a period at the end of a very long sentence. Asterisk. Later that night, I pace my downtown Denver apartment. 8 steps from one wall to the other, turn, repeat, through the 12th floor window. My midnight blue sedan sits in the parking lot below. The ugly scrape on the passenger door visible even from up here. I stop mid-stride, hands balled into fists. The memory of Anna tossing my keys onto the dining table burns fresh. Her casual disregard. My parents' automatic defense. The family dance I performed my entire life. My desk stands in sharp contrast, meticulously organized. Every item in its place. Award plaques line the back edge. Regional sales leader. 3 years running. The framed photo of me shaking hands with the C after closing the Westridge account. The crystal paperweight marking my 5-year anniversary with the company. Achievements earned through persistence, strategy, and sacrifice. Unlike that car. Unlike anything Emma has ever possessed. I press my fingertips against the cool glass and stare at the vehicle below. The realization comes slowly, then with sudden, perfect clarity. I've been approaching this all wrong. If my family refuses to respect my boundaries, the solution isn't forcing them to understand. The solution is removing the opportunity entirely. I smile for the first time since that awful dinner. Monday morning, the office buzzes with the usual start of week energy I normally love. Today, every good morning feels like an intrusion as I stride toward my corner office. Coffee in hand, briefcase holding the proposal I spent half the night perfecting. Addison. Jessica waves from the break room. That car your parents got for your sister is gorgeous. My husband's been looking at the same model. My smile freezes. Thanks. 2 steps later, Mark from accounting calls out, saw your sister's post. Nice ride. Your folks must be proud of her new job. She hasn't started yet. I answer, words clipped. By the time I reach my office, I've fielded for more comments. Each one stokes the ember of rage in my chest. I close the door harder than necessary, blinds rattling against the glass. My assistant Carl knocks tentatively. You have that budget meeting with Mr. Crawford at 10. He studies my face. Everything okay? I straighten my shoulders. Schedule an extra 30 minutes. Tell him I have a proposal that will benefit the company. His expression shifts from concern to curiosity. Anything else? Clear my afternoon. And find out who handles our corporate vehicle fleet. At precisely 10 o'clock, I sit across from Howard Crawford, CF of Neurotech Solutions. I've spent 3 years earning his respect through consistent results and fiscal responsibility. Today, I cash in that capital. I slide the folder across his desk. Before we discuss the quarterly numbers, I'd like to propose a solution to our client transportation costs. His eyebrows rise slightly, but he opens the folder. I've laid out the numbers with surgical precision. Current mileage reimbursement costs for sales directors. Maintenance expenses for company-owned vehicles. Tax benefits of asset depreciation. Client impression value metrics. You're suggesting we add a dedicated executive vehicle. Crawford flips through the pages, expression thoughtful. For client meetings and corporate events, I reply, keeping my voice steady and professional. We currently spend an average of $1,245 monthly on reimbursements for the sales team alone. A dedicated vehicle would reduce that by 30% while providing consistent branding opportunities. He studies the final page, a photograph of my midnight blue sedan with a mock-up of the company logo subtly placed on the door. And you happen to know of an available vehicle that meets our specifications? I do. I meet his gaze directly. Mine, Crawford leans back, a smile tugging at his mouth. I wondered when you'd make this kind of move, Phillips. You've always been strategic. This actually saves us money in the long run. Smart, very smart. 2 hours later, I walk out of the legal department with preliminary paperwork in hand. My car will become company property by the end of the week, of fair market price, full tax advantages, and most importantly, complete removal from my family's reach. Looks like everything went well, David Chen, my direct supervisor, says when he catches me in the hallway. Crawford already approved the expenditure. It makes financial sense for the company, David nods, and it gives you some distance from the family situation. My steps falter. You know about that. I saw the posts. His expression stays neutral. Not my business, but if this helps, you have my full support. By Wednesday, the company mechanic has already repaired the scratch on the passenger door, the expense absorbed as routine maintenance. Carl rescheduled client meetings to accommodate the transition, and legal has drafted the final agreement. I stand in the underground parking garage beside Walter Jeffries, the company attorney, as he reviews the documents one last time. Insurance transfer is effective immediately. Corporate plates will arrive next week. The reserved parking space is already marked. Sure enough, a fresh sign now reads reserved for client relations in the prime spot near the elevator. My midnight blue sedan sits beneath it, freshly washed and detailed, small magnetic company logos now adorning both front doors. You're sure about this? Walter asks, handing me the final paper to sign. Once it's company property, you can't just take it back, I'm sure. The pen feels solid in my hand as I sign my name with a decisive flourish. That evening, Linda arrives at my apartment, balancing a bottle of wine and takeout containers from our favorite Italian place, too. Corporate assets, she says, raising her glass after I explain everything. Most creative boundary setting I've ever witnessed. I clink my glass against hers. 2 problems solved. What will you tell them? She asks, dishing pasta onto our plates. The rich aroma of garlic and basil fills the kitchen. The truth that I no longer own the car. And when they realize what you've done, the anger that fueled me for days settles into something cooler and more permanent. Then they'll learn what happens when they mistake my generosity for weakness. From my dining table, I can just see the roof of the sedan in the building's lot below. No longer mine, yet more securely mine than ever before. Sometimes protection requires sacrifice. But for once, I'm not the only one paying the price. On Sunday that week, late afternoon sun throws long shadows across the driveway as I pull up to my parents' house in my old crossover SUV. The vehicle feels comfortably familiar after 2 weeks without driving it. The worn leather seat molding to my body like an old friend. I pause before cutting the engine, savoring the anticipation. When I push open the front door, 3 heads swivel in unison. Emma stands in the entryway, her expression shifting from boredom to confusion. Where's the blue car? My parents exchange one of those quick glances they perfected over 30 years of marriage. Mom touches her pearl necklace, a nervous habit she's had since I was little. Dad's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. I drove my old car today, I say, hanging my jacket in the closet. The aroma of pot roast fills the house, the same Sunday menu we've had since I was a child. I take my usual seat at the table, a strange serenity washing over me. For the first time in years, I feel completely in control here. Mom serves dinner with mechanical precision, her smile tight at the edges. No one speaks until Dad clears his throat. We've been thinking about your situation, dear, Mom says, carefully arranging her napkin. Emma needs reliable transportation for her job search. The economy is brutal right now. Every impression counts. I take a bite of carrots, chewing slowly. They've clearly rehearsed this. Mom opens with apparent concern. Dad delivers the verdict. Emma follows with practiced vulnerability. We thought perhaps you could add Emma to your insurance. Mom continues. Just for when the car is sitting there anyway. You work from home 3 days a week. It makes sense for the family. Emma leans forward, eyes wide and earnest. I'll be more careful this time, I swear. That scratch was totally not my fault. I continue eating quietly, surprising myself with how good my appetite is. The roast is perfect tonight, tender and flavorful. Mom always knew how to cook a good meal. When the plates are cleared and apple pie with vanilla ice cream appears, they're still waiting for my answer. The silence stretches, broken only by the soft clink of spoons. Dad shifts in his chair. Mom refills water glasses that don't need refilling. Emma's foot taps a nervous rhythm under the table. I take another bite of pie, letting the sweetness linger. For the first time all evening, I smile genuinely. That won't be possible. Mom sets down the water pitcher. What do you mean? I dab my mouth with my napkin. I don't own that car anymore. The words drop into absolute silence. Mom's hand flies to her mouth. You sold your new car already. Another impulsive decision. Dad's voice rises with an edge of triumph, as if my actions have just proven everything he's ever thought about me. I shake my head once calmly. I transferred it to my company. It's a corporate asset now. The silence that follows feels thick enough to touch. You can't just do that. Emma's voice cracks like a teenager's. Her composure shattering. Dad leans forward, authority diminishing with every word. What exactly does that mean? Explain yourself. Mom's eyes fill with tears again, a familiar tactic that once would have flooded me with guilt. We were only trying to help everyone in the family. I reach into my purse and withdraw the folder, placing it on the table between us. It means the car belongs to Neurotech Solutions now? I use it exclusively for client meetings and business purposes. I open the folder, revealing the corporate paperwork with signatures and official seals. It's already done. Emma snatches up the papers, scanning them with growing disbelief. This isn't fair. You did this on purpose. Yes, I admit, feeling strangely light. I did. Can they just take your car? Mom asks, looking between Dad and me. They didn't take it. I proposed the arrangement. I gently retrieve the papers from Emma's hands. The company pays for the insurance, maintenance, and even the repairs for that scratch. In return, I use it only for work purposes. Dad's face reddens. You've always been difficult, but this is beyond. Beyond what? I ask softly. Beyond protecting something I worked hard for. Beyond ensuring it's respected. The silence that follows feels different from any we've shared before. For once, I'm not waiting for their approval or dreading their disappointment. I'm simply present, comfortable in the decision I've made. I close the folder with a soft finality that speaks louder than words. Dad's face turns the color of a summer sunset. The paperwork might as well be written in ancient Sanskrit for all the comprehension in his eyes. He opens his mouth, closes it, then tries again. You can't just. His voice trails off as reality sinks in. This is absurd. Mom reaches across the table, her manicured fingers stopping just short of touching mine. Addison, after all the sacrifices we made for you, your father worked overtime for years to put you through college. I nearly laugh at the creative rewriting of history. $600 per semester? Mom, that's what you contributed. I have the bank statements. Well, we would have done more if we could. She insists, her voice taking on that wounded tone that once sent me scrambling to apologize. Emma shoves her chair back hard enough to rattle the crystal. You've always been selfish, always keeping score, always holding onto things. Would you like me to keep score now? My voice remains steady, surprising even me. The textbooks I bought you for 3 semesters before you dropped out of business school. The rent I covered when you were between opportunities last year. The security deposit on your apartment that you never paid back. The room falls silent except for the ticking grandfather clock in the hallway. You had opportunities I never got, Emma says finally. But her voice lacks conviction. 5 jobs in 2 years. Emma, I kept track not because I wanted to hold it against you, but because I kept hoping one would stick. I turned to my parents. And you two enabled every failure. Every time she quit because a manager was mean or the hours were too demanding, you comforted her instead of encouraging perseverance. M's lips press into a thin line. Not everyone is built like you, Addison. No, but everyone deserves the chance to build themselves. You never gave her that chance. Dad recovers enough to seize control again. This isn't about Emma's employment history. It's about patterns. I counter. The pattern where I work and Emma takes. The pattern where my achievements become family property while my struggles remain solo journeys. I stand up, feeling oddly calm despite the hurricane of emotions inside. This car was my achievement turned through years of hard work. 18 months of preparation for that contract. Nights and weekends sacrificed. 3 competing firms trying to undercut me at every turn. I tapped the company paperwork. Now the vehicle belongs to my company. It's used exclusively for client meetings and business purposes. The corporate logo will be added next week, and company insurance took effect yesterday. I looked directly at Emma. Even if I wanted to let you drive it now, I legally cannot. It's not mine to lend. Dad's face darkens as he processes the finality. If this is how you treat family, perhaps you should reconsider your place in this family's future. The threat hangs heavy. You're threatening to cut me out of the will. I ask, more curious than concerned. Your behavior suggests an unhealthy attachment to material things. Mom interjects, her therapist voice emerging. Perhaps you should talk to someone about that. Emma's eyes fill with tears, whether genuine or tactical. I can no longer tell. You've betrayed all of us. After everything we've done for you, the accusation that once would have devastated me now glances off like rain on a windshield. I've already received my inheritance, I say gently. You taught me to work hard, to persist when things get difficult, to stand on my own 2 feet. That lesson is worth more than anything in your estate. Dad flinches as if I've slapped him. For the first time in my adult life, I see uncertainty in his eyes. I gather my purse and car keys from the sideboard, movements deliberate and unhurried. There's no anger driving me now, just clarity. I love you all, I say, meaning it despite everything. But love has boundaries. Love respects. Love doesn't take without asking. So that's it. Emma demands. You're just walking away. I'm driving away in my old SUV toward the life I've built. You're welcome in that life, but only if you can respect its boundaries. Mom starts to speak, but Dad quiets her with a hand on her arm. Something in his expression has shifted, though I'm not naive enough to mistake it for understanding. Love doesn't take. It respects. I say it one more time, the words filling the room. Then I walk out the front door. The weight of decades of expectation falls away with each step. The engine of my practical, fully paid off SUV turns over with a familiar rumble. As I pull away from the curb, I catch a glimpse of them watching from the window, 3 figures frozen in tableau. Suddenly uncertain of the script they've followed for years. For the first time in 32 years, I'm writing my own. Morning sunlight catches the edge of my new executive vice president nameplate as I arrange a framed photo on my desk. 6 months have passed since that Sunday dinner, and the world has quietly rearranged itself around the word no that I finally learned to say without apology. Through my office window, I spot the midnight blue sedan in the company parking lot, now proudly emblazoned with our corporate logo and featured in our spring marketing campaign. The scratch disappeared long ago, erased like old habits. Still admiring your handiwork. My assistant pokes her head in, gesturing toward the bulletin board where my promotion announcement hangs. The quarterly reports are ready whenever you are. I nod, running my finger along the silver frame holding a photo of me beside the car, surrounded by clients after closing the Henderson deal. Just thinking about distance traveled later. Steam rises between Linda and me at our weekly coffee meetup. She stirs her latte carefully so she doesn't disturb the foam art. So your mom texted again. Just checking in. No guilt trips this time. I sip from my mug, no longer bracing for the familiar tension her name once triggered. Baby steps. And your dad. Radio silence mostly, but he signed the Christmas card himself instead of letting mom handle it. Progress, I guess. Linda squeezes my hand. Small victories. Jenna told me Emma finally stuck with a job past the 90-day mark. The words come out without their old bitter aftertaste. Some texts started up downtown. Good for her, Linda says. Watching my face for signs of the old hurt, I shrug. Mom asked if we could have dinner. Just the two of us. I'm considering it. That evening warmth and laughter fill my apartment as colleagues gather around my dining table. Crystal glasses clink against brand new china plates I bought myself last month. No heirlooms. No heavy history, just mine. To the new product line, Jessica raises her glass. And to Addison, who somehow convinced that dinosaur of a CFO to invest in innovation, conversation flows easily without the undercurrents I grew up navigating. When someone asks about my family, I answer honestly for the first time. We're finding new ways to connect on my terms this time. The following Tuesday, Sarah hovers in my doorway. Her expression mirroring the younger version of me. They're saying I don't have enough experience for the Portland presentation. I motion her inside. Close the door, but I developed the entire proposal, she says. Voice strained. Your achievements belong to you, I tell her. Remembering every stolen credit and dismissed accomplishment from my own past. Never apologize for that. When she leaves, I draft a company-wide memo proposing our new achievement recognition program. My fingers tap the keys, building something that matters. The sunset paints Denver's skyline in orange and gold as I drive the company car toward the Westfield meeting. In the rearview mirror, I catch glimpses of who I was 6 months ago. Hunched shoulders, careful words, always yielding. The steering wheel feels solid beneath my hands. The leather seats still carry a faint new car scent despite countless client meetings and company functions. The passenger door gleams flawlessly in the fading light. I slow at a red light. Watching pedestrians cross, a woman about my age laughing into her phone. An older man with a briefcase to teenagers sharing earbuds. All of them unaware how something can break inside a person at once. Success isn't what you own, I realize as the light changes and I accelerate smoothly. It's owning your boundaries. Some prices are too high even for family. But some lessons are worth every single penny. 6 months later, the changes feel permanent, like new foundations under an old house. I no longer flinch when my phone lights up with a text from mom. The dinners still happen, but now they happen on my schedule, in my space, with clear limits everyone has finally learned to respect. Emma landed a steady job in event planning downtown. She still talks about the blue car, sometimes with a mix of resentment and reluctant admiration, but she no longer expects access to it. Dad has started asking real questions about my work instead of just offering unsolicited advice. Small shifts, but real ones. I stand at my office window again, looking down at the midnight blue Sedan now fully integrated into company life. The magnetic logos have been replaced with permanent, sleek branding. Clients comment on it constantly, how professional it looks, how it reflects the quality we deliver. Every mile logged is tracked, maintained, and protected by corporate policy. No one can borrow it on a whim. No one can post it as their own achievement. It serves its purpose and protects my peace at the same time. Linda and I still meet for coffee every week. The conversations have grown lighter, freer. She jokes that I should write a book, Boundaries, how I turned my sister's entitlement into a tax deduction. We laugh harder than we have in years. At the last family gathering, Emma pulled me aside after dessert. I get it now, she said quietly, twisting her napkin. I didn't see how much I was taking until you took the option away. I'm sorry for the car, for all of it. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time saw not the spoiled younger sister, but a woman still figuring out how to stand on her own. Thank you. I needed to hear that. We didn't hug dramatically or cry in the hallway. We just nodded to adults acknowledging past damage and choosing to move forward differently. Progress doesn't always look like movie scenes. Sometimes it looks like quiet acceptance and new rules. My promotion to executive vice president came with a corner office, a team that reports directly to me, and the satisfaction of watching the achievement recognition program I created lift up other women who used to shrink the way I once did. Sarah nailed her Portland presentation and received public credit for her work. The ripple effect feels good. Driving home that evening in the company sedan. Windows down, Denver's lights beginning to sparkle against the mountains. I feel something I never had at those old Sunday dinners, complete ownership of my life. The car is no longer just a luxury or a symbol of escape. It's a tool that serves me and the company I'm proud to lead. My boundaries are no longer negotiable. They're simply part of who I am. I pull into my building's parking spot, the reserved space that now feels earned in every sense. Upstairs in my apartment, I pour a glass of wine and stand at the window overlooking the city. No more pacing. No more 8-step loops of anxiety. Just calm satisfaction and the quiet knowledge that I finally chose myself without guilt. Some families learn through gentle conversations. Mine needed a corporate restructuring and a set of legal documents. Different paths, same destination. Respect. Tomorrow is another Sunday. I'll drive my old reliable SUV to my parents' house, bring a bottle of good wine, and sit at that familiar walnut table. The pot roast will smell the same. The chandelier will still sparkle. But the choreography has changed because I changed it. I no longer shrink. I no longer yield without question. I show up as the woman who built her success step by step and refused to let anyone rewrite the story. My name is Addison Phillips. And for the first time, the story is entirely mine.